Commander Tejo stood on the bridge of his ship, the Terra's Voice. Through the large window he could see stars scattered across the dark space like tiny diamonds, but his eyes were not looking at the beautiful view. He was watching 3 gray ships moving closer to the human colony on Kepler-7. The ships belonged to the Vorthak. They looked like giant metal lizards with sharp edges and dark weapons. For the past 6 months, these ships had been coming here every few weeks. They always said the same thing. They were just looking around, just checking the area, just making sure everything was safe. Tejo knew this was not true. Nobody sent warships just to look around. "Sir," said Lieutenant Boram from her station. "The Vorthak ships are scanning our mining equipment again. They're getting very close to the colony buildings." Tejo nodded slowly. He had seen this many times before. The Vorthak would come close, scan everything, take pictures, and then leave. Each time they came a little closer. Each time they stayed a little longer. Each time they acted like they owned the place. "Send a message to Ambassador So-Min on Earth," Tejo said. "Tell her we have another situation here." On Earth, Ambassador. So-Min was already preparing for another long day. She sat in her office looking at papers and reports. The walls were covered with pictures from different worlds where humans lived. Some showed green farms. Others showed busy cities. All of them showed humans trying to build new homes among the stars. Her assistant, Dae-hyun, came into the room with a cup of tea and more bad news. "The Vorthak are at Kepler-7 again," he said. "Commander Tejo says they're being more bold this time." They scanned the school building and the hospital. So-Min put down her papers and rubbed her tired eyes. This was the 14th time in 6 months. 14 times she would have to write another complaint. 14 times she would have to ask the Galactic Council to do something. 14 times she would probably be ignored. "Schedule another meeting with the Council," she said, "and send copies of all our previous complaints. Maybe if they see how many times this has happened, they will finally listen." The Galactic Council met in a huge building that looked like a crystal flower. Representatives from many different species sat in a circle. The Etherians looked like living glass, tall and bright. The Zephirites looked like giant insects with 4 arms and clicking sounds instead of voices. The Nebulans were harder to see because they were made of gas and light, floating in special containers. And then there were the Vorthak. They looked like lizards that walked on 2 legs with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. Their representative, Prime-Scale Vorthka, sat in his chair like he owned the entire building. Ambassador So-Min walked to the center of the circle. She had done this many times before. She knew that most of the aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans were afraid to fight. They thought humans would always talk instead of taking action. "Honored Council," So-Min began, "I am here to report another violation of human space by the Vorthak Confederation. This is the 14th such incident in 6 months. Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughing. The Etherian representative spoke in a voice like singing crystal. "Ambassador So-Min, your species has made many complaints, yet you never do anything except talk. Perhaps the Vorthak are simply testing boundaries that you refuse to defend." Prime-Scale Vorthka stood up. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "The Vorthak Confederation has ancient rights in that region of space. We are simply checking to make sure these newcomers are not disturbing important sites." "What important sites?" So-Min asked. "Your people have never claimed any territory in the Kepler sector before humans arrived. Records can be found when needed," Vorthka said with what might have been a smile. His sharp teeth glinted in the light. So-Min felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm and steady. This was what humans did. They stayed calm. They followed rules. They tried to solve problems with words instead of weapons. "I request that the Council investigate these claims," she said. "I also request that Vorthak ships stop entering human space without permission." The Zephyrite representative made clicking sounds that meant amusement. "Your request is noted, Ambassador, as always." So-Min knew what that meant. It meant they would do nothing. Again. Far away on the colony world of New Busan, A farmer named Hyun Woo was having his own problems with the Vorthak. He stood in what used to be his wheat field, but now it was full of holes and broken ground. They said they were looking for old artifacts, his daughter Yoonji said. She was home from university, studying alien life forms. But look at this pattern, Dad. These holes are not random. They're following the underground water system. Hyun-woo looked at the destruction. 3 months of work ruined. Food that his family needed, gone. Why would they care about our water? Maybe they don't, Yoonji said quietly. Maybe they just want to make it hard for us to live here. She took pictures of the damage with her camera. She had been taking lots of pictures lately. Pictures of Vorthak ships. Pictures of damaged human buildings. Pictures of the strange patterns their digging made. She told her father it was for her studies, but really, she was starting to see something bigger. The Vorthak were not just bothering humans. By accident, they were doing it on purpose. They were testing to see how much humans would accept before fighting back. Back on the Terra's voice, Commander Tae-ho received a message from Earth. New orders from the Defense Department. He read them twice to make sure he understood correctly. Continue. Monitoring Vorthak activities, the message said. Record all violations. Do not engage unless directly attacked. Maintain diplomatic posture at all costs. Tae-ho had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in 3 different wars before humans reached the stars. He knew what it meant to follow orders, even when those orders were hard to understand, but he also knew what it meant to prepare. Lieutenant Boram, he called. Start a new file. Codename, Patience. I want every detail about every Vorthak ship that comes near human space. Their weapons, their speed, their crew numbers, everything. Sir, are we expecting a fight? Tae-ho looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Vorthak were planning their next move. Somewhere else, human diplomats were writing more complaints that nobody would read. I hope not, he said. But hope is not a strategy. In the crystal building where the Galactic Council met, the aliens were placing bets. The Etherians, who lived for thousands of years, bet that humans would keep complaining forever. The Zephirites, who solved problems, by fighting, bet that humans would give up and leave the disputed areas. Only the ancient Nebulans stayed quiet. They had been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They had seen many species rise and fall, and something about the humans made them curious. Most species, when pushed, would either fight immediately or run away immediately. But humans did something different. They absorbed pressure like a sponge absorbs water. They bent like grass in the wind. But they never broke. The Nebulans had seen this pattern before, long ago. It usually meant one of 2 things. Either the species was truly peaceful and would never fight, or the species was preparing for something that would surprise everyone. Time would tell which one the humans were. Meanwhile, in government buildings on Earth, people in uniforms were having quiet meetings. They looked at maps of space and talked, in low voices, about things they hoped would never happen. President Mi-young sat in her office late at night, reading reports from the frontier. Each report told the same story. The Vorthak were getting bolder, the other aliens were getting more amused, and humans were running out of patience. But not yet. Not quite yet. How long? She asked her reflection in the dark window. How long? Can we keep this up? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. 6 months had passed since the first Vorthak ships appeared near human colonies. What started as simple harassment had grown into something much worse. Captain Jin-woo learned this the hard way when his cargo ship, the Morning Star, was surrounded by 3 Vorthak raiders in the middle of empty space. This is Captain Jin-woo of the merchant vessel Morning Star, he said into his radio. We are carrying food supplies to the New Sol colony. We have no weapons and mean no harm. The largest Vorthak ship moved closer. Its hull was covered in Dao spikes and painted with red symbols that looked like claw marks. A harsh voice crackled through Jin-woo's speakers. Human ship, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. We must search for illegal goods. Jin-woo's hands shook as he reached for the engine controls. His ship carried rice, medicine, and clothes for families on the frontier worlds. Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. But the Vorthak did not care. About that. Sir, said his engineer, a young woman named Hayrin, our engines are making strange sounds. I think they damaged something when they fired their warning shots. 3 Vorthak soldiers came aboard the Morning Star. They were even more frightening up close. Their yellow eyes looked at everything like they were choosing what to steal. Their clawed hands touched Jinwoo's cargo without permission. Where are you taking this food? Asked the lead soldier. To New Seoul Colony, Jinwoo answered. The people there are hungry, they need these supplies. The Vorthak soldier made a sound like laughing. Maybe they should find food somewhere else. This region of space has complications. They spent 2 hours searching Jinwoo's ship. They opened every box, read every paper, and copied all his computer files. When they finally left, Jinwoo's engines were barely working and his cargo was scattered everywhere. Why did they really do this? Hayrin asked as they limped toward New Seoul Colony. Jinwoo had been flying cargo ships for 15 years. He had seen pirates before. He had seen customs inspections before. This was different. This was meant to send a message. Humans were not welcome in this part of space. On Earth, President Mi-young called an emergency meeting. In the big underground room beneath the government building, she sat at a long table with her most important advisors. General Dong-hyun spread out maps of human space on the table. Red marks showed where the Vorthak had been seen. There were a lot of red marks, and they were getting closer to major human colonies. The attacks are increasing, General Dong-hyun said. Last month, they hit 12 merchant ships. This month, it's already 23. They're not just looking around anymore. They're actively hunting our people. Admiral Ye Jin, commander of the human space fleet, added her own bad news. Our ships are reporting Vorthak warships near every major trade route. They're choking off supplies to our frontier worlds. President Mi-young looked tired. She had not slept well in weeks. Every morning brought new reports of Vorthak aggression. Every afternoon brought demands from colony governors to do something. Every evening brought messages from the Galactic Council telling her to be patient. What are our options, she asked. We could send warships to escort our merchant vessels, Admiral Yejin said. The Vorthak might think twice about attacking if they see our military ships. And if they attack our warships? Then we would have a war, General Dong-hyun said quietly. President Mi-young stared at the red marks on the map. Each mark represented human families trying to build new lives on distant worlds. Each mark represented dreams of peace and prosperity among the stars. Not yet, she said finally. Keep our ships ready, but do not take aggressive action. Continue diplomatic efforts. In the Crystal Building where the Galactic Council met, the alien representatives were making their own plans, but these plans did not involve helping humans. The Etherian representative, a tall being made of living glass, spoke to his companions in their private meeting room. The humans continue to show weakness. Perhaps it is time to discuss redistributing some of their territories. The Zephyrite clicked. His approval. Our species could use more mining worlds. The humans are not using their planets efficiently anyway. Even some of the supposedly neutral species were starting to see opportunity in human suffering. If humans could not defend their space, maybe they did not deserve to keep it. Only the ancient Nebulans remained silent, floating in their gas containers, and thinking thoughts too complex for the younger species to understand. Back on New Busan, Farmer Hyun-woo received a visit that changed everything. 3 Vorthak soldiers came to his farm in broad daylight. They did not ask permission. They did not explain their purpose. They simply walked through his fields like they owned them. This land has historical significance, the lead soldier announced. Ancient Vorthak artifacts may be buried here. We require access for archaeological study. Hyun-woo's daughter Yoonji stepped forward. She had her camera ready and her notebook in her hand. What artifacts? She asked. Can you show us your historical records? The Vorthak soldier looked at her with cold yellow eyes. Records are kept by Vorthak authorities. Humans do not need to see them. They spent the day digging holes in Hyun-woo's best farmland. They used machines that left the soil poisoned and useless. When they finished, they had found nothing except some old rocks. We will return tomorrow, the lead soldier said. Do not interfere with our work. That night, Yoonji sat in her room looking at all the pictures she had taken. Pictures of Vorthak, ships, pictures of damaged farms, pictures of the strange patterns their digging made. She had been collecting this information for months, telling herself it was just for her university studies. But now she saw the truth. The Vorthak were not looking for artifacts. They were not interested in history. They were systematically destroying human ability to survive on frontier worlds. She opened her computer and began typing a message to someone she had never met, Dr. Wu Jin, the famous scientist who studied alien behavior. Her message was simple. I think the Vorthak are preparing for something big. I have proof. Dr. Wu Jin received Yoonji's message in his laboratory on Earth. He had been studying alien species for 20 years, trying to understand how they thought and what they wanted. Recently, he had been very worried about the Vorthak. He opened Yoonji's pictures and felt his heart race. The patterns she had found were not random. They followed a clear strategy. The Vorthak were mapping human defenses, testing human responses, and preparing human territories for occupation. Dr. Wu Jin picked up his phone and called a number he had hoped never to use. This is Dr. Wu Jin, he said when someone answered. I need to speak with someone in military intelligence. It's about the Vorthak. It's urgent. While Dr. Wu Jin made his phone call, similar calls were being made all across human space. Quiet. Conversations between people who had been watching and waiting and preparing. On the Terra's voice, Commander Taeho received a coded message that made him smile for the first time in months. The message was short. Package ready for delivery if needed. He looked out at the stars where Vorthak ships continued their patrols. They thought they were the hunters, and humans were the prey. They thought human patience meant human weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the betting halls where aliens gambled on human behavior, the odds were changing. Most still bet that humans would eventually surrender their frontier worlds to avoid a fight. But a few of the smarter gamblers noticed something strange. Human merchant ships had stopped carrying valuable cargo through dangerous areas. Human colonies had started requesting agricultural equipment that looked suspiciously like military supplies. Human diplomats had begun asking very specific questions about Vorthak military capabilities. The ancient Nebulans, who had lived for millions of years, recognized these signs. They had seen them before, in other species and other times. They were the signs of a civilization preparing for war while hoping for peace. The storm was gathering, and soon everyone would see what human patience really meant. The civilian transport ship New Seoul was 3 days away from Haven's Rest colony when the Vorthak found her. Captain Seung-ho was drinking his morning coffee in the ship's bridge when his radar operator, Young-soo, called out an alarm. Captain, we have 5 ships approaching fast. They're big ones. Captain Seung-ho put down his coffee and looked at the screen. 5 Vorthak warships were moving toward them like hungry sharks. Each ship was twice the size of the New Seoul and covered in weapons. This is the civilian transport New Seoul, Captain Seung-ho said into his radio. We are carrying families to Haven's Rest colony. We have no weapons and request safe passage. The answer came back in the harsh voice that had become too familiar to human ears. Human ship, you will stop immediately. You are violating Vorthak territorial claims. Captain Seung-ho felt cold fear in his stomach. What territorial claims? This route has been used by human ships for 3 years. Claims change, the Vorthak commander replied. You will abandon your ship and return to human space. You have 1 hour. In the passenger areas of the New Seoul, 847 humans were living their normal lives. Children played games in the recreation room. Parents read books and talked about their new homes waiting on Haven's Rest. Elderly couples shared stories about Earth and dreams about their grandchildren growing up under alien suns. They did not know that 5 warships were pointing weapons at them. Captain Seung-ho called his senior officers to the bridge. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. They want us to abandon ship. All 847 passengers, here in the middle of empty space. That's murder, said his first officer, Min-ho. Our escape pods can't carry everyone, and Haven's Rest is still 2 days away. I know, Captain Seung-ho said. He opened a communication channel to all areas of the ship. This is your captain speaking. We have encountered Vorthak ships who are making unreasonable demands. I am requesting more time to evacuate safely. Please remain calm. He switched back to the Vorthak frequency. Vorthak commander, we need at least 6 hours to evacuate safely. We have children and elderly people aboard. You have 1 hour, came the reply. After that, we will assume you are resisting lawful orders. Captain Xiong Ho had been flying passenger ships for 20 years. He had transported millions of humans to new worlds across the galaxy. He had never lost a single passenger to accident or attack. He was not going to start now. Youngsu, send an emergency signal to Earth. Tell them what's happening. Minho, start preparing the escape pods, but do it quietly. I don't want to cause panic. 58 minutes later, the Vorthak opened fire. The first blast hit the New Soul's engine room. The lights went out throughout the ship. Emergency power came on, casting everything in red light. In the passenger areas, people started to scream. Captain Xiong Ho grabbed his microphone with shaking hands. All passengers move to escape pod stations immediately. This is not a drill. Families with children go first. The second blast hit the passenger deck where the children had been playing games just an hour before. The third blast opened the ship's hull to space. Jungsu worked frantically at his station, sending distress signals to anyone who might be listening. Captain, I'm getting responses from 3 human ships, but they're all too far away to help. Keep sending, Captain Xiong Ho ordered. He could feel his ship dying around him. Metal groaned and twisted. Air rushed out through holes in the hull. People he had sworn to protect were floating in space. When the attacks finally stopped, only 23 escape pods had gotten away safely. 824 humans were dead. On Earth, President Mi Young was awakened at 3 in the morning by a phone call that changed everything. She sat up in her bed and listened to the report from Admiral Ye Jin. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the phone so tightly that her knuckles turned white. How many survivors? She asked quietly. 23 confirmed. We're still searching for more pods. And the dead? 824, including 47 children. President Mi Young closed her eyes. For 4 years, she had chosen diplomacy over war. For 4 years, she had believed that patience and negotiation could solve any problem. For 4 years, she had been wrong. Call an emergency cabinet meeting, she said. Full security protocol. 2 hours later, President Mi Young sat at the head of a long table in a room deep underground. Around her sat the most powerful people in human government. They had all received the same terrible news. General Dong Hyun spread photos across the table. Photos of the destroyed New Soul. Photos of the scattered escape pods. Photos of bodies floating in space. The Vorthak used overwhelming force against unarmed civilians, he said. This was not a military engagement. This was murder. Admiral Ye Jin added her report. Our response ships arrived too late to save anyone. The Vorthak ships were gone by then. They left no messages, no explanations, no demands. President Mi Young stared at the photos for a long time. In one picture, she could see a child's toy floating among the wreckage. A small stuffed animal that some little girl or boy would never hold again. What are our options? She asked. We can file another complaint with the Galactic Council, said Foreign Minister Kyung Ho. Demand justice through diplomatic channels. President Mi Young looked at him like he had suggested flying to the moon by flapping his arms. 824 people are dead. The Galactic Council will express concern and do nothing, just like they always do. We could threaten economic sanctions, Minister Kyung Ho continued weakly. Against whom? The Vorthak don't trade with us. The other species think we're weaklings who deserve what we get. General Dong Hyun cleared his throat. There is another option, Madam President. Everyone in the room knew what he meant. In the corner, a black folder sat unopened on a small table. It had been there for 4 years, never touched, never discussed in detail. On its cover were 2 words, Protocol 7. President Mi Young walked over to the folder. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked it up. Inside were plans that had been prepared in secret, hoping they would never be needed. General, she said quietly. Please explain Protocol 7 for anyone who hasn't been briefed. General Dong Hyun stood up. His voice was calm and professional, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. Protocol 7 is our comprehensive response plan for the complete elimination of an enemy civilization that has committed genocide against human civilians. The room became very quiet. It involves the coordinated use of all human military assets, intelligence networks, and civilian resources to systematically destroy the enemy's ability to function as a spacefaring civilization. Admiral Ye Jin added, "We've been preparing Protocol 7 since our first contact with potentially hostile aliens. Every diplomat who met with the Vorthak was also gathering intelligence. Every trade mission was reconnaissance. Every cultural exchange was strategic positioning." President Mi Young opened the folder and read the first page. It contained a list of Vorthak military assets, political leaders, economic centers, and strategic vulnerabilities. The list was incredibly detailed and completely up to date. "How long have we been planning this?" she asked. "Since the day we met them," General Dong Hyun replied. "We hoped we would never need it, but we prepared for it anyway." President Mi Young thought about the 824 dead passengers. She thought about the children who would never grow up. She thought about the families waiting on Haven's rest colony who would never see their loved ones again. She thought about 4 years of patience, diplomacy, and hope. Then she thought about what the Vorthak had chosen instead. "Activate Protocol 7, she said. The words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Within minutes, coded messages went out to human ships, bases, and colonies across the galaxy. Messages that had been prepared years ago, but never sent. Messages that would change everything. On the Terra's voice, Commander Taeho received his orders and allowed himself a cold smile. On frontier worlds, colonists like Hyunwoo opened hidden compartments and revealed equipment that was definitely not for farming. In government buildings across human space, people who had pretended to be clerks and teachers and shopkeepers suddenly became something much more dangerous. The Vorthak had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences, or die with them. The galaxy had never seen anything like what happened next. 12 hours after President Mi Young activated Protocol 7, the Vorthak Confederation learned that human patience was not the same as human weakness. Fleet Admiral Chang Min stood in the command center of the battleship Earth's Thunder. Around him, dozens of officers worked at computers showing the positions of every human ship in the galaxy. What the Vorthak saw as scattered merchant vessels and patrol ships was actually the largest coordinated military operation in galactic history. "All units report ready," said Captain Yu Jin from her station. "Phase 1 can begin on your command, Admiral." Admiral Chang Min looked at the main screen showing 17 Vorthak star systems. For months, these systems had been home to the ships and soldiers that terrorized human civilians. In a few hours, they would be empty space and floating metal. "Execute Phase 1, he ordered. Across the galaxy, human ships that had seemed weak and helpless suddenly revealed their true nature. The diplomatic vessel Terra's voice dropped its fake hull plates to show the most advanced weapons ever built by human hands. Commander Tae-ho, who the Vorthak thought was just another scared human captain, opened fire with enough power to destroy a small moon. "Target the command ship first," Tae-ho told his weapons officer, Lieutenant Soo-jin. "They need to see what real firepower looks like." The Vorthak command ship Claw of Dominion had been the terror of 3 star systems. Its captain, War Leader Krex Vo, had personally ordered the destruction of the new Sol. He was drinking victory wine in his quarters when his ship exploded around him. War Leader Krex Vo lived just long enough to realize that the humans had been lying about everything. On the frontier world of New Busan, Farmer Hyunwoo was also revealing his true identity. The barn where he kept his farming equipment split open to show missile launchers and communication arrays. The agricultural tools he had been requesting from Earth were actually pieces of a planetary defense system. "Yoonji, activate the sensor network," he told his daughter. "It's time to show them what we've really been doing here." Yoonji smiled as she typed commands into a computer that definitely did not belong on a farm. "Dad, the Vorthak ships in orbit have no idea what's about to hit them." The archaeological research that Yoonji had been doing for months was actually detailed mapping of every Vorthak military position within 50 light-years. Her university project was really a complete intelligence report on enemy weaknesses. High, above New Busan, 3 Vorthak patrol ships were preparing to land and demand more tribute from the human colonists. They never made it to the surface. Missiles launched from hidden silos turned them into burning debris in less than 30 seconds. But the real surprise was still coming. Dr. Haewon, who everyone thought was a quiet cultural researcher, stood up in the Galactic Council building and showed her true face for the first time. The other alien representatives watched in confusion as this harmless human academic began speaking with the voice of command. "Attention all Vorthak vessels," she said, into a communication device that should not have existed. "This is strategic. Intelligence Coordinator Haewon of the Human Defense Force. You have exactly 1 hour to surrender unconditionally." The Etherian representative made sounds of shock. "Human, what are you doing? This is a place of peace." Dr. Haewon looked at the glittering alien with cold eyes. "Peace ended when the Vorthak murdered 824 civilians. What you are witnessing now is justice." She pressed a button on her device. Across the galaxy, Vorthak communication networks went silent. Their military computers stopped working. Their navigation systems failed. Their weapons could not fire. Engineer Jae-sung, working from a hidden base on the moon, smiled as his cyber warfare program did exactly what it was designed to do. For 3 years, he had been pretending to study Vorthak technology for peaceful research. In reality, he had been building viruses specifically designed to destroy their electronic systems. "All Vorthak networks are down," he reported to Admiral Chang-min. "They are flying blind and defenseless." The Vorthak had always been proud of their advanced technology. They used computers to control everything from their ship's engines to their planet's weather systems. They never imagined that those same computers could be turned against them. Within 6 hours, the Vorthak Confederation discovered that they could not communicate with their fleets, could not control their weapons, and could not even turn on the lights in their government buildings. On the Vorthak homeworld, Prime-scale Vorthka tried desperately to understand what was happening. His advisors brought him reports that made no sense. "Our entire 3rd Fleet has gone silent," reported General Thekra. "Our 4th Fleet reports that human ships appeared from nowhere and destroyed them completely." "How many human ships?" Vorthka demanded. We are not sure. They appear to have been hiding among our own trade routes for months." Vorthka felt cold fear creeping into his scaled heart. "How many ships do the humans have?" "More than we thought," General Thekra admitted. "Much more." The truth was that humans had been building warships disguised as civilian vessels for 4 years. Every merchant ship that the Vorthak had ignored carried hidden weapons. Every research station was actually a military base. Every diplomatic mission was intelligence gathering. Commander Soo-jin led a team of human soldiers who had been living on a Vorthak world for 2 years, pretending to be cultural exchange students. When Protocol 7 activated, they revealed their true mission: destroying the planet's military command center from the inside. "Remember, we want to capture their leaders alive if possible," Soo-jin told her team as they moved through the government building. "Dead Vorthak can't surrender." They had studied the building's layout for months. They knew where every guard would be, where every security camera was placed, where every important Vorthak official worked. The attack was over in 20 minutes. By the end of the first day, 16 Vorthak star systems had fallen to human forces. Vorthak ships that had terrorized human civilians for months were now floating wreckage. Vorthak military bases that had seemed impregnable were now smoking ruins. But the humans were not done. Fleet Admiral Chang-min received reports from across the battlefield. Every report said the same thing: total victory. "Admiral, the Vorthak are trying to send surrender messages," reported Captain Yu-jin. "But their communication systems are still down." "Let them fix their radios first," Admiral Chang-min said coldly. "When they can talk, then they can surrender." In the Galactic Council building, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as Dr. Haewon updated them on humanity's progress. The Vorthak military no longer exists as a functional organization. she reported calmly. Their government buildings are under human control. Their leaders are in custody. Their fleets are destroyed or captured. The Zephyrite representative clicked in disbelief. This is impossible. Humans are peaceful. Humans do not fight. Humans prefer peace, Dr. Haywan corrected. But when forced to choose between peace and justice, we choose justice. When forced to choose between diplomacy and protecting innocent lives, we protect innocent lives. The Etherian made sounds like breaking crystal. But your species never showed any military capability. Your ships were weak. Your colonies were defenseless. Dr. Haywan smiled, and for the first time, the aliens saw something terrifying in human expression. Did you really think we would show you our weapons before we needed to use them? Did you think we would reveal our capabilities to potential enemies? She gestured to a screen showing the destruction of Vorthak forces. Every diplomatic meeting was reconnaissance. Every trade negotiation was intelligence gathering. Every cultural exchange was strategic positioning. While you thought we were weak, we were learning everything we needed to know about you. The ancient Nebulans, floating in their gas containers, finally spoke. Their voice was like wind through cosmic dust. We have watched the galaxy for millions of years. We have seen many species rise and fall, but we have never seen a species that could hide their true strength so completely while genuinely seeking peace. Dr. Haywan nodded. We hoped we would never need to use this strength. We gave the Vorthak every chance to choose peace. They chose murder instead. On the Vorthak homeworld, Prime-scale Vorthka finally managed to send a message to the human fleet. His voice shook with fear and defeat. Human forces, this is Prime-scale Vorthka of the Vorthak Confederation. We request negotiations for surrender. Admiral Changmin's response was broadcast across the galaxy. You have 24 hours to surrender all military forces and turn over everyone responsible for the massacre of the New Soul. If you refuse, we will continue until the Vorthak Confederation no longer exists. The message was simple and clear. The galaxy finally understood that human patience had never been weakness. It had been preparation for this moment. 1 week after the Vorthak Confederation ceased to exist, the Galactic Council held the most important meeting in its history. The crystal building that had once echoed with alien laughter at human weakness, now filled with nervous whispers and fearful glances. Ambassador Somin walked to the center of the chamber, just as she had done so many times before. But everything was different now. The same aliens who had ignored her complaints now hung on every word she spoke. The same species who had bet against human resolve now watched her with something that looked very much like fear. Honored Council, Somin began in the same calm voice she had always used. I stand before you to report the successful conclusion of military operations against the Vorthak Confederation. The Vorthak representative's chair sat empty. Prime-scale Vorthka was in a human prison ship waiting to face trial for the murder of 824 civilians. Most of his government was with him. The Vorthak military has surrendered unconditionally, Somin continued. Their leaders responsible for the massacre of the New Soul are in custody. Their capacity to threaten civilian populations has been permanently removed. The Etherian representative, his crystal form dim with shock, asked the question everyone was thinking. Ambassador Somin, how long were you preparing for war while pursuing peace? Somin's answer changed how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. From the first day we encountered the Vorthak, patience and preparation are not opposites. We can hope for peace while preparing for war. She gestured to a holographic display showing the former Vorthak territory. Every diplomatic meeting provided intelligence about their capabilities. Every trade negotiation revealed their economic weaknesses. Every cultural exchange mapped their political structure. We spent 4 years learning everything we needed to defeat them, while hoping we would never need to use that knowledge. Thangye, Zephyrite representative clicked in disbelief. But your ships appeared to be civilian vessels. Your colonies seemed defenseless. Commander Tae-ho, now revealed as one of humanity's most decorated war heroes, stepped forward. Every civilian ship carried hidden weapons. Every colony had concealed defenses. Every merchant captain was also a trained military officer. We built the largest military force in galactic history, and you never suspected because you saw only what we wanted you to see. The ancient nebulans floating in their gas containers spoke with voices like cosmic wind. In our millions of years of existence, we have watched countless species rise and fall. Most make the same mistake. They confuse preparation with aggression, or patience with weakness. Humans are the first species we have encountered that treat patience as strategy and mercy as choice. Dr. Haywan, no longer pretending to be a simple researcher, addressed the military observers in the gallery. Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle: prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and never let your enemies know which one you're doing. She activated another display showing detailed intelligence files. While Ambassador So-min filed diplomatic complaints, our intelligence services mapped every Vorthak military installation. While our merchants traded peacefully, our engineers studied Vorthak technology for weaknesses. While our colonists farmed their land, our soldiers prepared defensive positions. The Etherian made sounds like wind chimes in a storm. This level of deception, it is unprecedented. It was not deception, Ambassador So-min corrected firmly. Every diplomatic effort was genuine, every attempt at peace was real. We truly wanted to solve our problems without violence, but wanting peace does not mean being unprepared for war. President Mi-young appeared on the main screen, speaking from Earth. Her words would become famous throughout the galaxy. We gave the Vorthak 4 years to learn the difference between human patience and human weakness. We filed 847 formal complaints. We attended 312 mediation sessions. We suffered 1,247 documented attacks on our people. We gave them every opportunity to choose peace. She paused, and every alien in the chamber felt the weight of her next words. When they chose to murder 824 innocent civilians, they demonstrated that they preferred violence to diplomacy. We honored their choice. We gave them the violence they wanted, delivered with the same efficiency we had offered them peace. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. For the first time in its history, no species dared to speak. Finally, the ancient nebulans broke the silence. What are human intentions now? Will you claim Vorthak territory? Will you impose your rule on other species? Ambassador So-min's response surprised everyone. We will return to diplomatic relations with all species who respect our right to exist peacefully. The former Vorthak worlds will be supervised until their populations can establish new, peaceful governments. We have no interest in conquest or empire, but you have proven you are capable of destroying any of us, the Etherian pointed out. Yes, So-min agreed simply. We have, but capability is not the same as intention. We demonstrated our military power to ensure peace, not to threaten it. Commander Teho added, the human fleet is already returning to defensive positions. Our soldiers are going back to their farms and families. Our weapons are being stored away, hopefully never to be used again. Dr. Haywan addressed the larger implications. The galaxy now knows that human patience is not weakness. Our diplomacy comes from strength, not fear. When we negotiate, we do so because we choose peace, not because we cannot choose war. The mom, Zephyrit, clicked nervously. And if another species attacks human civilians? President Mi-young answered from the screen. Then that species will discover the same truth the Vorthak learned. We will exhaust every diplomatic option. We will try every peaceful solution. We will be patient beyond what most species consider reasonable. Her eyes grew cold. But if they choose to murder our people, we will respond with the same precision and efficiency we offered them in peace. The galaxy has seen what human patience looks like. Now it has also seen what human justice looks like. In the days that followed, the story of humanity's response to the Vorthak spread to every corner of the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as weak pacifists suddenly viewed them as the most dangerous civilization in known space. But not because humans were violent. Because their violence, when it came, was perfectly controlled and devastatingly effective. No, New Busan, Farmer Hyunwoo returned to planting crops in the fields where he had once hidden missile launchers. His daughter Yoonji went back to her university studies, though now everyone knew her research had helped plan the greatest military victory in galactic history. Captain Jin Woo resumed flying cargo runs between human worlds, carrying food and supplies instead of weapons and intelligence. But alien pirates who might once have attacked his ship now gave him respectful distance. The betting halls where aliens had once wagered on human weakness now offered different odds. No species was willing to bet against human resolve anymore. In the crystal chamber of the Galactic Council, a new understanding emerged. When humans spoke of peace, they meant it. When they warned of consequences, they meant that too. The galaxy learned that mercy withheld was not mercy denied. Human patience was not passive acceptance but active preparation. Human diplomacy was not weakness but strength, choosing restraint. Most importantly, the galaxy learned that when humans offered friendship, it came from a position of overwhelming power choosing not to be used, and that made human friendship the most valuable thing in the galaxy. The Vorthak had taught the universe an important lesson. Humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons, or their tactics or their technology. It was their ability to hope for the best while preparing for the worst, and their willingness to extend patience until the very moment that patience became harmful to innocent lives. The other species now approached human diplomats with new respect. They were not negotiating with a weak species trying to avoid conflict, but with a supremely confident species choosing to offer peace from a position of absolute strength. And everyone agreed that made all the difference in the galaxy.